Hello, my name is John Sayer, Technical Marketing Manager, Civil Infrastructure here at Autodesk. Today I would like to take you through a workflow using the Infrastructure Design Suite. The goal for today is to take my bridge model that is represented in Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D into Autodesk Revit Structure, add some design elements, and then bring the bridge back and populate our roadway design with the updated bridge. So let's get started. To give you a bit of background about this project, we've been asked by our project manager to pass the bridge information that we have to our structural engineers so they can import the bridge into Autodesk Revit Structure and verify and add additional design elements. We will generate the bridge in our design model with the bridge module and then utilize the Revit extension to import it into Autodesk Revit Structure. Make the desired changes, then take the design bridge back to Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D to update our roadway model. So the design roadway is shown here in our Civil 3D model. Let's take a look at the bridge location. So if I zoom in here, you can see that I've got a bridge that's going to need to be put in over an existing creek crossing. So first thing we need to do is go ahead and bring our bridge in using the bridge modeler. So I'm going to select the bridge modeler tab in our ribbon. I'm going to create a bridge utilizing the bridge concrete slab with girders. Everything here I can leave default pretty much except for my station region range. I'll set it to the area inside of my design that the bridge needs to be applied, and I'll hit OK. When the bridge definition dialog box comes up, I can leave everything default here for right now. We could go in and change and add piers, change our girder types, things of that nature. For right now, we're going to leave all this default. And as you can see, it generates our bridge very quickly. So if I grab that bridge and look at it in the object viewer, you can see that it gives you a very high resolution 3D model of our bridge. So now what we want to do is we want to bring this into Revit Structure. So let's go over to Revit Structure and let's select a new template. So we're going to bring in a structural template into Revit Structure. And we're going to go ahead and get rid of all of our views because we don't need them. Our south, west, east, north views will be deleted. We'll go up to our extensions tab in our ribbon, and we'll go ahead and select here under our Autodesk Revit extensions our civil structures, and we'll select integration with AutoCAD Civil 3D. This is going to read the open Civil 3D drawing and pull the bridge information from that drawing. We can leave everything default here and go ahead and hit OK. Now this is going to import our roadway information, and then we will apply the bridge information to it after it's imported. All right, so our roads and terrain definition dialog comes up. We can go in and double check all of our information, but it's reading it directly from Civil 3D. So it's going to show us our horizontal alignment information, our road configuration, vertical profiles. Right there, it's showing you your road profile. I'm going to change the terrain profile name to my existing ground. So now it shows the road profile and the existing ground. So you can see the bridge up above and our creek crossing below. I'll go ahead and hit OK. And it's going to continue with the import process. I'll hit OK. Now it says there's no open view. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. And we can see our road portion of the bridge deck. So a couple things I want to do before I go to the next step and bring in our bridge is I want to be sure I can see level 1 and level 2. So level 1 would be the bridge deck. Level 2 is going to be, you'll see the girders and such on the bridge. And I can't see anything right now in my model, but I can drop down here under view range and I can set it to unlimited and hit OK, and then I'll see my bridge deck in level 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and go back to civil structures here in my extensions tab in my ribbon. I'm going to drop down to concrete slab with girders. This is going to bring my bridge information in exactly how it was built inside of Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D. Notice the same dialog box that comes up that we saw in Civil 3D. And again, we could start our design now. For right now, we're going to go ahead and just leave everything default, and we'll make some changes here in a minute. So I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to start to create the Revit families for you for this bridge. Again, it's utilizing the bridge information from the Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D model. Now, once the bridge model is inside of Revit Structure, we can see here we're looking at level 1. Actually, if I go to level 2, we can see level 2, back to level 1. And a couple things we need to do. We need to create a reference plane so that we can cut a section in Revit Structure. We're going to add rebar to this pier right here as it's shown in Revit Structure. So I'm going to go ahead and create a 3D model so we can look at it and reference it in 3D also. So we've got some visual styles we can look at. We can change it to realistic, and you can see that it brings in the model, and the model looks much like it did when we turned it up in the object viewer in Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D. So this pier is the pier we're going to work with. So I'd like to create a section view of that pier. So I'm going to go back to level 2, and I'm going to create a reference plane. So I'll select reference plane. I'm going to pick here, and we'll just reference through here. All right, and once that reference plane is built, then I could go up to View and select my section option. I'm going to create a section right through this pier. Now, when I double click on the section view, it gives me a nice section of that pier itself. Notice the level elevations that are shown here. This doesn't actually represent what we want. It needs to reference our survey point inside of Revit Structure. So I'm going to go ahead and set that setting also. I'll set it to read the survey point and hit OK. Then it reads our elevations the way it would be reflected in Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D. Now this is in architectural units, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to decimal feet and give it a couple decimal places. We want to get it as close to our Civil 3D model as we can. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add some rebar to this pier. So I'm going to select my pier. I'm going to pick rebar. I'm going to drop down in my rebar shape browser, and you can pick any of these. You can create your own rebar shape, but I'm going to select this T1, and I'll pick here inside the pier, here, and here. Now you can see that it added the rebar inside of the pier itself. So now what I want to do is I'm going to jump back to my 3D view, and I can't see the rebar inside of the pier when it's set to realistic. So I'm going to go ahead and change my graphic options, and let's just make them transparent. Now if I zoom in, I can see the rebar inside of my pier. So I want to change the spacing on my rebar. I'm just going to give it a fixed number of rebar and say 10, and it adds the rebar. I'm going to do this to each element. Change that to fixed number, and then I'll select the bottom piece and give it a fixed number of 10 also. So we can visually see inside of Revit Structure the changes that we're making and the design changes that we're making, and it's very nice. You can see it in a 3D model and then reference it back to the section. So we could go back to level 2, double click the section, and again we see our rebar. Now I'm going to go back to my 3D view, and now I want to add a pier. So I've run an analysis on the bridge, and I want to add a pier or make a change. We've already added rebar to this pier, so when we add the new pier and adjust the spacing, the rebar will stay. it will stay in place, just like we have it designed. So I'm going to go back to the extensions, and I'm going to pick bridge, concrete slab with girders. Our bridge definition dialog box comes up again, and I'm just going to add a pier. So our piers are represented here as green lines in our grid view. So I'm going to add a pier, and then we'll space them out. So I'm going to move the first pier here. This is the one that has the rebar, or that we've added the rebar to it. I'm going to move it back to station, say, 250. And then I'll move the next pier to station 300. And then I'll move the third pier to station 350. All right, I'm happy with the way the piers are laid out. I'll go ahead and hit OK. What it's going to do is it's going to recreate the Revit families and add the additional pier in the specific station locations and adjust the two original piers out to their design locations. So we'll go ahead and close that dialog, and we'll take a look at our new bridge or our new pier locations. I can zoom around, pan around, and orbit, and you can see it added the additional pier, spaced the other two piers that were there previously to the right location that we set, and it held the rebar locations inside of the pier that we added the rebar to. So now that we've made our design changes, we need to update our Civil 3D model. So our Civil 3D model is still open. So I will just select integration with Civil 3D again, AutoCAD Civil 3D. And instead of importing or updating from Civil 3D, we'll export the bridge to AutoCAD Civil 3D this time and select OK. And it's going to push the design information and the actual structure of the bridge back to our AutoCAD Autodesk Civil 3D model and populate our roadway model. So if I go ahead and select Civil 3D, you can see it has updated our pier locations. And if I select the model of the bridge inside of Civil 3D and select Object Viewer, I can orbit around and I can see that it added the additional pier and the structure looks like it did inside of Autodesk Revit Structure. So as you can see, in 10 to 15 minutes, we're able to import our bridge model into Autodesk Revit Structure from Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D, make multiple design changes, and then populate our roadway model in Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D with the updated bridge model. I thank you for taking the time today to watch this presentation and hope you have a great day.